Now we want to go ahead and start our thread. Now, I'm using black Vivas power thread, 140 denier. We want to start our thread behind the eye like we normally do. And the reason we do that is I'm going to tell you here in just a second. I know a video is not available. Because we want to wrap thread over this section of the hook fairly thick, and we're going to wrap it several times over there once we get there. So the super glue will have something to grab onto, and the head of the fly will have not that slick round surface. So just go ahead and wind your thread all the way back. And then your wraps don't have to be touching anywhere. And I'm going to wrap back
over the crook and all.
Oh, the crook and all, yes. All the way from right behind the eye over the crook. And I'm going to wrap back, to just behind the point here, I guess. Now, if you like a lot of material in the back, you can wrap back all the way to the bend here if you like, but I'm not going to go quite that far. And now we're just going to tie in a marabou tail, and the length is absolutely totally up to you. This fly is tied with the tail about the same length as the overall hook length. So if you like that length of that tail, it is roughly the overall length of the hook. So my thread is hanging just behind the hook point. So I'm going to measure roughly the overall length of the hook and lay that measurement right on top of my thread. And
You're just using the whole feather. You're not stripping the marabou off.
nope, not stripping anything off. I'm just using the whole feather. Now I'm also tugging it occasionally. Don't worry about the wraps touching or anything like that. I'm tugging it occasionally just to keep it up top, because marabou has a tendency to spin on us. And I'm going to wrap that marabou all the way up to just short of that point on the hook where that bend comes down. So I've got a little gap there, not much. Now to trim your marabou off, just hold the end of it up and spin it, which cords up the marabou and makes it easier to trim. And then just kind of wrap back over everything. Now, if you have a few fuzzies like I have here, no worries. Okay. Now get one of your black saddle hackle. And one may not be enough. That's why I ask you to get 4 of them, because we may have to tie in 2. It just depends on how much space you have here. I'm going to try to grab a decent one here. These 2 packages were terrible saddle hackle, but you never know what you're going to get with it. So, okay, now, and on your side, we're going to tie it in by the base first. Let me get a different one now. It's short. I think Carlton took all the nice long ones. Let's see. Yep, there we go.
You say
that. Okay.
Blaming it on you.
Yeah, blame it on Carlton. We're going to tie it in by the base. So strip out all the fuzzy fibers at the bottom. And so I'm left with a piece here about 4 inches long, I guess. Now notice it has a bend to it. We want to tie it in with that bend toward the hook. So when we wrap it, the feathers will be leaning to the rear. Because if we tie it in with the bend away from the hook, the feathers will be pointing forward. So we want to do one more thing. With the bend of the feather toward the hook, strip another 1/4 inch fibers off the top. That's going to help us start our feather without it twisting. Saddle hackle is really, really bad about twisting. And trim that long stem end off to, maybe leave about 1/4 of an inch of stem, maybe. Move your thread right to the base of your marabou and hold in the feather with the bend toward the hook. Now notice I'm not holding it flat like that because I'm holding it at an angle perpendicular to the hook. Because if I hold it flat like this and tie it in, I'm going to have to twist it to get it to wrap around the hook. But if I tie it in the orientation that it's going to wrap, it doesn't twist on me nearly as bad. So tie it in there and just wrap up. And notice nothing is going really very far in front of that little point there. Is that still in focus? My vise has moved a couple of times. It is? Okay, good. All right. Now move your thread to just right where the bump stops. And we're going to wrap this, called palmer, and we're going to wrap this saddle hackle forward and just make relatively close wraps of it. And hopefully you have enough to get to your thread. If you don't, we'll have to tie another feather in. Yep.
Bill, are you wanting these real close?
I'm making fairly touching wraps, but if I see I'm going to come out a little bit too short, I really don't want to tie a second feather in. So I'm going to, if I see I'm coming out a little short, I'll open them up just a little bit. Now, when you notice I don't have much feather left to hold on to here, and you're going to get in that same situation. So what you want to do is, again, I'm going to pick on Carlton, use the Carlton-Townsend method of holding tension, which is when you get the feather on the other side, put your finger against it like this and hold the tension, and then you can re-grip your feather without losing your tension. Again, finger against it, re-grip it. Helps tremendously once you get to the short end of the feather. Now, fortunately, mine worked out to where I am right at my bump, and throw 2 or 3 wraps of thread over that feather and then pull everything back and put a few wraps in front of it. So my little tag end of my feather there, I put 3 wraps over it, and then I swept everything back and put a few wraps in front of the feather. And don't worry about if things look wild like this does. It's okay. Now, if you want really tight, nice hackle here, you can spend $100 on a nice whiting cape and wrap tight hackle. But this is $10 saddle hackle. So trim off any excess you have here, like that. And now we're almost done with our thread. We're looks a little thin. This hackle is not good saddle hackle. Now, what you could do, and what I did, like on these to make them thick, I tied 2 in at the same time and wrapped them both forward. But it's kind of hard to manage 2 of them, so I didn't want to do that in class because I lost tension several times tying in 2 of them. So once you're here and your feathers trimmed, you notice I have a few little fibers sticking forward. I don't want those under my head, under the head of my popper. So I'm going to sweep those back, everything back out of the way. And I'm going to make open spiral wraps, not touching wraps, but intentional open spiral wraps all the way to the eye, and then all the way back again over the hump, and then all the way back to the eye again. And this is forming a rough thread base that will help the glue attach to the head. Gives the head something to hold on to. And once you're back to the eye, you can go ahead and whip finish or half hitch and trim your thread, and we're finished with the thread. All right, now the popper stuff. Grab your legs and try, you either have 4 or 5 legs probably attached. Use your needle or a bodkin and split off 2 of those legs. But leave them attached, leave the 2 attached to each other. It makes them easier to pull through. So I've got 2 of them still attached that I'm going to strip off and lay the others aside. And cut yourself a piece about as little bit longer than the overall fly itself. You need some legs, Orlando?
Would like to be computed together.
Doesn't have to be, no.
Or separated.
They already separated? You jumped ahead.
Okay.
It's okay, yeah, yeah. Your fly won't be successful, but it's okay.
Never catch a fish.
And on float.
It won't float, it won't catch a fish. They can. So I want to cut about a 3-inch piece of this because I don't want that entire 10-inch piece. So cut about a 3-inch. It's not critical. We're going to trim it later. About 3 inches.
So just one leg.
2 legs. 3 inches.
3 to 2.
Don't separate the 2. If you have already, it's no big deal, but don't separate them. They're easier to pull through the head if
I
they're not.
tried to, but I couldn't, so I just gave up.
There you go. You did right. All right. So we want to take this needle and all right, I'm going to slip my popper head on here just to kind of, whoops.
You got glue on the hook then?
No glue on the hook yet. I'm going to slip my popper head on over, notice now when you put it over that thread, it's pretty hard to get over there. So that thread's gripping it. And I want my legs, I probably want them about midway on the head. So somewhere about there. We're getting to you'll get the toothpick here in a second. So use the needle. So I made a little dimple there and I'm going to take the popper head back off. And I want to push this needle through the popper head. Now you may have to push against your table because the needle's not very sharp. These are embroidery needles. They aren't sewing needles. And you want to make sure that to the best extent you can that your needle's going through level through the head. So here's my slot and I want it to go through level. So I'm going to have to come down and push it through against my table.
Where do I push? Where do I make the?
Right here, Carlton's where I'm doing mine. It's not critical. Just make you a little dimple. You're going to have to take it off the fly to get the needle through it though.
Okay. Just make it like this.
Yeah, just make you a little dimple and then you want it to be, man, that one's actually fairly level. You want to try to get the needle perpendicular to your slot and then push your needle to where this is a fairly long slot where about half of the hole of the needle or so is still hanging out. And you can guess what we're going to do here. We're going to thread our legs into that needle. And I'm going to try to pull it through, but it's too slick. This is why ladies have, what do they call those things on their fingers? Thimbles, that's right, thimbles.
Got a grown man.
Yep, so pull and Walmart didn't have the large eye sewing needles, so I had to get the embroidery ones, and they're kind of dull. So then you just kind of place your legs where you want them. Now there is a trick you notice the leg, we're going to put some super glue on them, but the legs slide back and forth pretty easily. You can tie a knot in the legs, the two legs, and that knot will help keep the legs from sliding if you want. But we're just going to daub a little super glue here in a bit once we finish the fly and be ready to go. Now, kind of test fit everything one more time, because once we put super glue on there and you get it on, it's pretty much there. So yeah, looks like a popper. Peter, Mark, y'all doing okay?
Yeah, so far so good.
Doing
Good,
great.
good, good. All right, now those of you that have super glue, you should also have, and I need to grab one, a piece of paper towel. Peter, I didn't include the paper towel in yours, so.
Well, you included everything else.
Yeah. That's just because I almost always spill super glue.
Yeah. Where's the name of the-
Now,
I had to need-
yeah, eye of the needle. And then you just kind of push them through and start pulling through. It's pretty hard to get through there, but.
Then you're gonna spill that super glue on the hook.
The reason I gave you the toothpick is so you could just grab a little super glue out of the tube itself instead of smearing the tube all over this and dropping on the table in your hands and sticking to your blue jeans or shorts and all that. Then we'd have to get Jerry to do something to unstick the super glue on it. So.
It's good off. Anybody ever zap a gap their forefinger? through
Yes,
their
indeed,
thumb?
absolutely.
Like after that, everything will be okay. That's right.
Yep.
And the only way you can get it off is to pull the skin off.
And so the Zappa gap actually makes it debounder now.
Yeah,
And
they
all it
do.
is is,
But that costs
finger-
extra.
it's fingernail.
It's acetone. Yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
acetone.
Yeah.
That costs extra though.
Okay.
I've got a whole bottle of.
Not included in
All right. Now, go ahead and open your super glue. And I haven't looked at one of those tubes. You may have to reverse the cap to puncture the front of the tube.
Yep.
Yep. Now, the reason, go ahead and open your super glue and you'll see the reason for the clothespin in just a second here. I'm going to go ahead and I've got,
Something else to add to your box.
yeah, something else. That's right. I've got fancy super glue. This is Fly Tire Z-Mint, which works really well.
Okay.
Not much more expensive than regular super glue, and it's not got a nice brush. And you can be fairly generous with it. Normally, you don't want to use a lot of super glue, but you can see I've got quite a bit on there because the reason we have the clothespin is we're going to use it to clamp the sides of the head together.
Have you glued the legs in place yet?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
No, I'm gonna get the head on the fly so I can kind of balance them a little bit.
Okay.
We're just gonna go ahead and get the head on first. It doesn't matter, Peter. I mean, you could do those first if you want.
Here.
So now with the super glue in place, try not to get it on your fingers.
I already asked.
Okay.
Tell me just put it on. Now put it back on.
Yep. Now go ahead and put your the head on the hook. And squeeze it together a little bit. So squeeze it and hold it 10 or 15 seconds. And it's going to spring back apart a little bit, but that's okay. Because once we glue the legs, we're going to put the clothespin on it and set it aside while we tie the next fly. So just,
Should I have put glue on before I put it?
you have glue on your hook?
Not yet.
Not yet. Go ahead and put glue on your hook, on your thread from the back of the eye forward. And of course, try to get your head level on there. Now I'm going to put a little super glue on the legs now.
Yeah, that's what you should.
So I'm going to pull my legs back through. Pull my legs back through just a little bit. Put just a little bit of super glue on them. And then pull them back through again. I just find it easier to do with the hook and the vise. Now, notice I have just a little bit of super glue that's kind of bubbled up. I'm just going to daub that off with my handy paper towel. And notice I still have that gap there.
You have to have.
So handy clothespin clamp. Put it right on there to hold it together. Now it will dimple the foam. So when you take your clothespin off, say, oh my gosh, it mashed in the side of my foam. It will come back out. The foam will come back out. And then you can take this out of your vise and set it aside. And that is popper number one.
Leave that.
All right, let's look. Now, pull the legs through the side.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, that's cool.
I gave my leg to my finger.
I always do that.
Oh, you don't believe use fingers.
Bill, I have a picture where I took his higher piece of this film off.
Yeah, it looks like
It's like that. Massive gap, yeah.
Okay, so with our highly technical clothespin clamp, just lay your popper aside. And we're going to go to the next one. Once everyone finishes clamping up here. Now, the difference here in the next copy we're going to tie is, let me get it here. This is the one we're going to tie. And let me check my focus. Yeah, that's fine. It's going to have legs in the tail, 4 legs in the tail, and it's going to have these 2 grizzly hackles on each side. And before we're going to tie the legs across the top of the hook, right behind where the popper head is going to be. So you'll have, these are bent, that's just the legs bent. So the legs will be right behind the popper head. So we're not going to fool with the popper head at all. So if you don't like the needlework of sticking a needle through the head, this way works really well. Now, let me show you what you can do though, a little variation. Notice on this one how the legs are splayed out. And what that is pulling one leg through here, one leg through here, and one leg through here. So you can't, and I did 3. Boogle bugs, matter of fact, have the splayed out legs like that, but they have 2 legs on them. So you could certainly do one this way and one this way if you want that spider effect with the legs. And it's really easy to do. You just pull 2 single legs through instead of the double legs. But that's another option. All right. Okay, we need another hook. I am in focus. All right, good. And again, we're going to start our thread behind the eye and wrap all the way to the back. Well, not all the way to the back, just behind the hook point. Wrap, again, not important to have touching wraps. Yeah, so roughly about there. Now, the reason I didn't have us wrap all the way back like we normally do to the bend, I knew that if we wrapped that far back and tied our tail in there, you would have had to use 2 hackle fibers to get And I didn't want us to have to pull with two hackle
I
pliers.
was thinking.
I did. Always on my mind. Now, if you were tying a weed guard on one, and I didn't mention this earlier, this is the point at which you would tie the weed guard to the back of the hook and come up. You wouldn't tie it at the front yet, but you would tie it at the back at this point. Poppers, unless you're in and they don't really help a lot in lily pads. The weed guards don't that much. I just don't find they help a whole lot. But if you do want to tie a weed guard in, you would tie, you can, plenty of videos on the internet. You tie it in along the back of the hook here, and it drops off and comes back up and attaches here. All right, so let's grab one more little piece of marabou. Whoa,
What,
is that me?
what do you use for the weight guard?
30-pound mono, usually 20 to 30-pound mono.
Just regular, not that,
Hard model.
You can get hard mono, like hard saltwater mono, like Rio makes it. I think the last ones I did were 25-pound hard mono. I did some on some saltwater flies. All right, so again, about the same length of tail. Now, as I said before, it's really if you look on the internet, it's really popular, but we didn't have enough saddle hackle to do this, to tie two rooster hackles on each side. So you'd have two this way and two that way. I like a marabou tail. I've caught a lot of fish on poppers with marabou tails, so that's kind of what I stick with. All right, so again, about the length of the hook. Go a little bit. There we go, and just kind of wrap forward. Just keep in mind that you don't want to go past the kink in your hook. Twist that marabou to cord it up. Snip it off. All right. Bringing your thread about the midpoint. And we're going to tie legs in now for the tail. But the reason I don't want to come all the way up here is I don't want that bump from tying these legs in to interfere with tying my other legs in at that same point. So I'm going to tie these legs in on the back half of this tie down point here. So you want to cut, you can, if you still have the two legs together, measure about twice the overall length of the fly itself. So about twice the overall length of the fly. So I have a piece that's probably 5 inches long here. Now there are any number of ways to tie the legs in, and we've talked a lot about tying legs in, but for this kind of tie, I like to loop it under the hook shaft in front of the thread. Under the hook shaft in front of my thread, and making sure they're roughly equal. Whoops. Down in front of my thread. And with tension on the thread, that way it won't slide back on the hook. You just lay them down on each side of the hook and take a few, not tight, but a few loose wraps. Notice they want to wrap. That's why I did loose wraps. They want to rotate on the hook. And we want them on the best we can. We want them on the side of the hook. Like that. And then once you get everything there, just hold it in place and give it some really nice tight wraps. And leave them together right now. Don't separate the legs yet. It's easier to manage the feathers if they're not.
You got it going all the way back to the
No.
feather with the fence, right?
Yes, I am going all the way back to the feather. I'm not. There. Mike, I'm going on.
Yeah, I see it now.
Yeah, all the way back here, but I've left a little spot there because that's where we're going to tie our legs across the hook. All right, now. Notice that let's grab your grizzly hackle feathers. They go on next. And notice they have a bend to them as well. Pretty pronounced bend, as a matter of fact. I want them flaring out on each side. So I'm going to tie them back to back, like, let me get my fingers out of the way, like that. So we want them flared out. So we're going to tie them back to back like that. Now, the length of these legs is totally up to you. I like to hold them both together, so I make sure they're the same length. And then I can kind of play around with how long I want them. I like them just a little bit longer than the marabou tail. That's my preference. You could have them shorter than the tail, whatever you like, but I want them just a little bit longer than the marabou tail. Yep. Now, and you want to hold them right at your tie down point so we can.
Curve out.
You want them curved out. Yes. So tie them back to back, the curves back to back, Ed. Otherwise, they would both curve the same direction or they would curve in and you wouldn't get that pulsing motion in the water as you retrieve the fly. So you want them curved out like that. So that's where I'm going to tie mine. So I am going to be very careful about that measurement. Where my thumb is, I'm going to grab now with my left hand. And with my scissors, I'm going to cut about 1/4 of an inch to the right of my hand. So I have about 1/4 of an inch coming out from my fingers because now I'm going to strip. I don't have to keep them together anymore because I know they're the same length. I'm going to strip that 1/4 of an inch free of feather fibers. 1/4, yeah, 3, maybe not quite 1/4. Okay, there's one stripped. And then maybe strip the second one. You just tied, Carlton? That's a good way to do it too. Now I'm going to tie these in one side at a time. You can certainly, if you get a lot of practice, like we were holding both of them, you could tie them right there if you want to. But I'm going to tie one side at a time. And the way I'm going to do that, I'm laying it again with the curve away from the hook. I'm going to hold that feather against the side of the hook with my material or left hand here, and with my right hand, my thread, tie it, and see it wanted to twist on me, so I'm going to have to undo that. You want it to lay flat. So you want it to lay flat like that.
You know, my wife's not gonna let me use super glue after this, right?
She's going to put it on the do not use list. All right, I'm wanting that feather right on the side of the hook, and I don't want it to twist on me. Yep, there we go. All right, and if you have a rotary vise, just flip it over and do the other side. If you don't have a rotary vise, you might want to take it out and put it upside down. Well, this one's turning on me. It's not playing nice. Close enough. There we go. All right, so after you get your second one tied in, take your thread to a little point right behind the bend, right here.
Right behind the bump.
Right behind the hump. Now, I happen to have a pretty nice little scrap of those two legs. Mine's about 2 or 3 inches long. You didn't strip it, did you, Carl?
You're a champion.
Well, that was.
He said it nicely.
Oh, I thought that was Rich that said that.
Was that Rich?
I think it was Rich. We're gonna blame it on Rich. It was Rich.
Rich, was that you?
Or it might have been Orlando in the back. I couldn't tell.
Will be soon.
Well, I've been hearing Rich say it, so I tried.
How do you feel about it?
You feel good?
You feel good now?
Yeah.
All right, so what we're going to do now is lay our legs across and tie them here. And then, again, this is a lot more work on this fly. We have to go back and tie our saddle hackle in to put our black hackle in. So we're going to tie the legs in first. So I'm
All
going
these legs need to be.
to, mine, it doesn't matter, Mike, at least as long as your entire fly, probably another inch, half inch.
Oh.
You just don't want them too short. I mean, we can always trim them later. 2 legs again, yep. And it's much, much easier if they're still together.
Eddie. That she was just showing 2 O's.
How long did it be?
I don't know, 3 inches, whatever. Mine's about a half inch longer than my fly. And what we're going to do here is I'm going to turn my vise so you can see it. I'm going to lay it here and we're going to do a figure 8 wrap. So I'm going to make 2 or 3 loose wraps. Don't tighten them down because it'll flip it over on the other side of the hook. 2 or 3 loose wraps in one direction. And if it flips on you, that's fine. Then kind of straighten it out. And 2 or 3 loose wraps in the other direction.
Billy getting kinky.
It is here, I'm telling you. So you want something that looks like that.
Where's the hook?
Now what, I missed out.
I did I tied it down just like you do eyes, Carlton. 2 or 3 loose wraps in one direction, and then 2 or 3 loose wraps in the other direction.
Okay, but so you pull it back to the bend, to the crook.
Yeah, I'm tying it right behind the crook.
Okay.
Matter of fact, mine's kind of on the base slope of the crook.
You're looking at the bottom? Oh, and I got you. Okay, all right.
Yep. Yeah, mine's a little ways up the crook, but that's fine because when I put my head on, it will push it right back. So what you're working toward here basically is a set of legs that stick straight out from the body of your popper. Now, if you want to put a tiny drop of super glue right where those legs are tied in, that's probably a good idea, but don't put much. Just a little bit. That's the toughest part of this fly is tying these legs in here. And once you get them tied in, go ahead and move your thread back to the base of your marabou tail. Because now we're going to tie in a piece of black saddle hackle, just like we did before. Go ahead and prep that black saddle hackle just like we did before. Strip all the fuzzy marabou pieces from the base of it. And with the curve facing toward the hook, strip off a few more on that top side. And there. What's that, Catch? You can. All right, go ahead and tie that. Remember, we tied this hackle feather in with the curve toward the hook and holding it perpendicular to the hook. We tie it in right at the base of our tail. And then move your thread forward to just behind the legs. Now, my legs are up against the hump, so I will not wrap the saddle hackle past my legs. I won't put a wrap in front of the legs. If your legs are a little bit farther back where you have some space, you can make your last saddle hackle wrap in front of the legs if you want. That's just personal preference. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to stop behind the behind my legs. So I'll start wrapping again those fairly close wraps. Okay. And I'm going to tie legs down just like I did before. I'm going to make 3 wraps over the tag end of the feather. And then a couple of wraps in front, sweeping everything but the legs back. Or trying to sweep everything but the legs back. Don't say it, Rich. Okay, there we go. That is some scraggly saddle hackle, but it is. Looks like this one was.
Go halfway and the curve's a different way.
Yeah, I like to tie feathers in by the tip, but this saddle hackle is so bad it twists. You cannot keep it aligned if you tie it by the tip. So once you get your hackle is tied off and trimmed, go ahead, just like we did before, and move your thread in open spirals forward. So now we're doing exactly the same thing we did before. Open spiral to behind the eye, open spiral back up the hump, and then back to the eye and whip finish.
Have you got legs going front, forward, and back?
You got legs all over the place.
Do what, Carlton? No, mine are going straight out to each side. My legs are straight leg.
But then you have some in the back too.
Well, they're in the tail. That's the ones we tied on the tail.
Yeah.
Yeah, tail legs and you have butt legs.
I listen so slow.
You listen slow.
He listens slow, yeah. And let's.
That's a good one.
It is. That is a good one.
Slow.
And I'm
But
gonna.
you still.
I don't think you need these back legs.
You know what, Carlton? I'm gonna comment on that. How much easier was the one we tied first than this one? I mean, this has. I just wanted to show you more options you can put on a popper. So I'm gonna.
Options and features.
Yeah, features and options. Yeah, and I'm gonna test fit my head on here just to make sure it all fits as it should. And oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Now, again, yeah, nobody else will, so it's okay. Again, if I were being critical of what I've done here, I should have tied my legs back here, tied them right there, and had a couple of wraps of hackle in front of my legs. Because you generally want your hackle to be against the back of the popper if you can. And so here I don't have that room. And so you can see my legs are against the back of the popper. Am I going to sweat that? No. Nope. So I'm going to take that off and go ahead and put my super glue on the hook. Peter, you coming okay?
Yep. The one of the poppers didn't have a slit, so I assume I'm supposed to use a razor blade to cut the slit.
Yeah, I found a couple of those too that I
No
went through. Yeah, I went through those, not yours that I mailed to you, but the others. I found a couple without a slit.
Yep, that's no problem.
All right, again, I'm going to hold that gap for about 10 or 15 seconds. And since I can only afford one clothespin, I'm going to take my clothespin off my other fly and put on this one. But before I do that, I'm going to separate and trim my legs. Yeah, take your needle and, well, first let's trim them. Actually, I like fairly long legs on the popper, so I'm not going to trim them too short. Leg length is totally up to you. And the ones on the tail, my tail, I'm trimming just about the same length as my grizzly hackle.
Fingers are sticking together.
Just don't stick your tongue
Yeah. Yeah, these legs can be kind of crooked. That's
One that's to the side and one that's there. It's gonna make a good pair. A whole lot of conversation. They don't pass with the snails and each other.
Now, while I have my super glue handy, I'm going to put super glue behind the head of on my thread wraps here, just to give it a little more durability. You don't have to do that, but I'm going to put some later. And I'm going to take my clothespin off the other fly. You notice it did indent the fly. It will expand back out.
I'm supposed to separate.
Yeah, go ahead and separate your legs, and that's pretty much it.
Just super glue, it'll be fine.
Yeah. Our first version was considerably simpler than this and faster to tie. And this is pretty much the configuration I tie mine, just like we did that first one.
First one, sir.
The first one.
What?
Yeah.
You know, especially when doing like saltwater flies and flies kind of like this.
Yeah.
So the hackle, or in some cases the marabou, kind of gets into the hook.
Fouls in the hook.
Do you trim that, or do you feel like that might affect the hook set or something, or do you?
I think it affects the eat more than anything. I have never caught a fish on a fly that had anything fouled in the hook, like legs. Sometimes legs will
Well,
foul.
I meant more like just the marabou or the hackle.
Can
See
kind
how
of-
see how it's in the gap there?
Yeah. Oh no.
You don't think
No.
that
No.
matters?
No.
Once it gets weird, it kind of.
Yeah, it pushes it, and there is no resistance to that. I mean, yeah, it's not. Now, they say weed guards, I've not used them enough to know the difference, can affect hook set a little bit because there is some resistance there. But, no, I don't think so at all. Particularly the hackle, I mean, the hackle is like, is none. Now, on a saltwater fly, you notice most saltwater poppers you see, or most of the ones I've looked at don't have legs. Some of them do. But they also, most of the saltwater poppers will have these grizzly the tail will be almost totally that grizzly hackle. It might be 2 on each side, or it might be 3 on each side. And nice thing about the double barrel popper is they come in white. And of course, white's a great color for a saltwater popper too. So,
I've seen them where on the saltwater popper where they actually run the mono in a loop behind. Is that to tie it to, I mean, it's a loop that comes off the back, back.
It keeps the tail from going down.
Is that what it is?
keeps it from fouling, holds the
See that a
tail.
lot of like, carpet flies. or-
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like, sometimes people, the half and half clouser, that's
Right,
kind of half
yeah.
deceiver, where it's got that long saddle hackle coming off the back, they'll sometimes put that loop of mono. back there.
I thought I tied shrimp off the back of it. And you did pop the drops.
Well, I mean, I've also watched videos where they do that. Where they want to tie a second fly behind it. So
Right,
they
yeah.
put that loop on it instead. I don't know why you would just tie to the hook, but maybe it affects the action. a
Which
little bit.
thing,
But there we go. If you want to add eyes to your fly and don't want to paint them, these little stick-on eyes are cheap. 25 for like $2, $3. Matter of fact, I ordered some off Amazon and it was a selection, a sheet of 3,000 or something, whatever it was. Yeah.
Where do they live?
Just a little holographic eye.
This little holographic stick-on eyes.
How much are
Oh, get on Amazon. I mean, they're cheap. 10,
$10 for.
I mean,
yeah, $8-10 for
As long as you
hundreds.
it doesn't matter.
Well, they're usually they're sorted sizes and colors. Yeah. Now these little ones here, that's 1/8 of an inch eye that fits that one. Those are really small eyes. But yeah, if you want an eye, or if you don't want to buy an eye, just get a Sharpie and paint a round black spot on it. I don't know if the fish can see the eye anyway, but
I use the red and black.
yeah. These take Sharpies pretty well. So if you get the white ones or the yellow ones, yeah.
Have you determined how long you want the legs?
I think you want them long enough to flow. I mean, you want that action in the water. But you don't want them so long as if they start fouling your hook. I get aggravated with that. So if I do 2 or 3 and they're fouled, I'll chop them off a little bit. Yeah, I'll make an infield adjustment. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, any questions or comments, criticisms? Colors.
Is this like,
Thank you.
this the best color you can tie these in?
Well,
There are colors that you should not tie these in.
I like this. Scott asked a question about colors. The top one up there, the small one, that's probably the color scheme that I use the most.
Oh, yeah, chartreuse.
Well, the tail is olive and with grizzly hackle behind it. Grizzly gives a little light color. Now I'm talking about, I've caught most of my bass on this and they're pond bass, but, I mean, 10 to 1. Oh, well, not 10 to 1, but I mean, certainly that olive with grizzly seems to work really well.
I mean, you find a guy online, you tie his bug, and it's a beautiful bug.
I see you are.
And they, you can tie this bug in any color you want. Okay, well, I'm pretty sure there's some colors I can tie this bug in, there's, this is, we'll find it.
Ken, what colors? What colors?
You can run this time of year. Frogs everywhere. I don't have any glue.
Well, that's Richard's.
No. So green. Yeah.
Do you have a time I guess like blue, dragonfly color?
I haven't.
I just didn't know that.
I saw it.
Same here.
Tied them off the back of the fly, and left them together. And then.
Fishing out in the neighborhood.
On the left. You know, and nobody did. He's got. Got it back to the ducking stringer, spun the leg, she took it out and. Put off that blue. Did that, wraps up on stuff.
A bigger.
Yeah.
Oh.
Picked up.
Good, yeah, exactly. Same way.
I see, you did it correct.
Right, yeah. That's beautiful.
Every one of them.
And that makes the fly look like this. Come on. Yeah, that's it. I mean.
We're saving this stuff because it never year.
Yeah. He said there were 3 pieces of, bears, I only had, I had them all in it. Not all. Oh, yeah, I just thought.
Maybe some numbers. We saw 1,700 patients.
Yeah, so
We-
I sent you that file, right?
They took
The
out.
other file, the 2012 file.
Peter, how'd it go?
Yeah.
Great plot, great tech.
Well, those bass lakes you've got up there, I want to see some pictures of what you catch with them.
With your fly?
Yeah, this.
Yeah. I'm gonna go test it out.
Well, good. All right, man. Well, we're gonna roll on this end, so I'm gonna end stuff. So y'all have a good evening.
Great class.
All right. Glad you